Hi there friends, Pattern here again with a tale of mythical lands, fantastic creatures, and overlogging enterprises that make Tyson, Cargill, and JBS look like a couple of schoolyard amateurs. I'm talking about the Valheim, a game released by the friendly Swedes from Iron Gate Studios. Like anything else you might find in IKEA, Valheim might seem like an excessively quick product to pick up and get through easily. However, if you're sitting in your Laberget in front of a Kuleberg, you're a real one, and I applaud you on your weeks of struggle, which is exactly what you're in for when playing this game. When you begin your journey to Valheim, you'll be battle bused directly to the 10th world, which is essentially the Norse equivalent of a Russian gulag for some of the worst Odin offenders. Instead of brutalist architecture and violent hordes of criminals, though, you'll be treated to beautiful forests and endlessly violent hordes of grey dwarves that just want to play a game of catch. The world of Valheim is divided into biomes that upon creation of your world will be randomly generated. There are currently 6 active biomes in the game with the addition of the Mistlands. You'll start in the tranquil meadows, a grassy woodland rich with all of the natural resources you'll need to construct tools and a simple dwelling which is commonly connected to a segment of black forest. A slightly more difficult biome with harder hitting enemies, but plentiful in minerals and ore needed to secure a contract with Nvidia for GPU manufacturing. After the Black Forest comes Florida, or as the game likes to call it, Swamp, which is where the difficulty really starts to ramp up. Florida men and retirees, both groundbound and mobility scooter enabled, have no qualms about beating your ass on sight here. While the next 2 biomes, mountain and plains, will likely be easy to find, they are anything but easy. It is recommended that you first learn the art of campfire spamming in mountains. I learned this the hard way and have developed a crippling fear of wolves in the process. The most recent biome added after a short delay in updates is the Mistlands, an area that is as 420 friendly as it gets, shrouded in dense fog like a Snoop Dogg concert and teeming with pissed off Smurfs. While not technically a biome, the world is divided by several bodies of water, from friendly ponds to the massive ocean, which wouldn't be complete without barnacle boys and laser-guided sea monsters. I'd like to take this time to point out that I'm not particularly great at writing scripts, or I would have added this in earlier, but Valheim is an early access title, and I just wanted to point out that of all of the games in early access I've played, never has one felt so complete at this stage. Anyways, resources. As I mentioned earlier, this game will make you into a Jesus of Nazareth level carpenter whether you like it or not, and your best friend early on is going to be wood. The house bone is connected to the herringbone, and if you don't get shelter going, you'll be walking around like some sort of sad, soggy Viking washcloth. You'll also need some starter rock, and since my guy just got incarcerated, it's up to you to get out there and strip the copper piping out of every derelict you can. Simple ores can be smelted into bars, like copper and tin for bronze, or baking soda and booger sugar for Along the way, you'll be expected to mine better ores for more advanced metals like iron, silver, obsidian, and it wouldn't be very Scandinavian without black metal. Throughout this process, you'll learn new recipes for danker craftables each time you loot a new object, often teaching multiple recipes at once. And it won't be long before this encyclopedic knowledge adds up. But we're moving on to buildings. There's an Old Norse saying that goes, "Fight your foes in the field, nor be burnt in your house." And what these braided builders were attempting to convey is that they had no carbon monoxide detectors, so you better vent your shit or you'll look and smell like a vape shop. Along these same lines, housing isn't quite as simple as fortnighting your way to a quick abode. Building is as much about how conveniently located near a public your home is as the structure and load-bearing capacities you've built into them. The process of building is made further complex with what I like to refer to as the Nike model. So grab your shovels, kids, we're heading to the sweatshops. You'll need to process wood in a kiln for coal to power a smelter, and once the smelt is dealt, can be crafted at a number of stations, but early on you'll only need a workbench and a forge. To be able to craft more structures, you're going to need to make this house a home and increase its comfort level, which is represented by a star in accordance with how many live, laugh, love signs you have scattered throughout your base. While not entirely necessary, carts can speed up the process of transporting far more than your character can carry, and in my world have built multiple networks of roads to satisfy the never-ending demand for raw microprocessor materials. After running some dungeons, you'll discover Surtling cores, which unlock one of the game's most important structures. Portals. I'm not sure why the portal animation was designed to look like a close-up of hemorrhoids, but I find it hilarious either way. Even if a limiting factor of these is that certain items like ore and metal cannot be transported through, so like a good little capitalist, buy up every inch of real estate across the continent you can. Which brings me to my favorite structure. Beehives. Just look at these stalwart beauties. Don't worry guys, your population may be in sharp decline, but Papa won't let the bad man take you. I'll kill every great orphan goblin that tries to lay a finger on your mead-making mandibles. NPCs. From time to time, and I mean every time you take more than 5 steps, Odin's best boy, Puggin, will appear to hit you with the... Hey, listen! But he's a day 1 subscriber and never misses a stream, unlike his bandwagon brother Munin, who only appeared for me later in the game when my popularity hit Asmongold numbers. These aren't the only friendly NPCs, but the majority of faceless chat lurkers only leave weird cryptic comments scattered on runes that thankfully have Duolingo enabled to auto-translate for you. At some point, you may be fortunate enough to run into the Eiffel 65 cosplayer Haldor, who has wares if you've got stacks. It's worth noting that when you find Haldor, you'll want to quickly set down an Airbnb because no one in Midgard skips out on rent, and easy access to his booty is what separates the mins from the maxes. As I mentioned earlier, this land is bountiful in creatures that range from borderline donkey-brained to holy shit, please go away, I don't want to die again, I just got my shit back, you little fucker. The day may throw some grey dwarves at you, and my first experience with a troll was unexpectedly badass. These guys are huge and will curb stomp you early on, but the night is dark and full of crackheads. I suggest sleeping it off because leaving your base at night means dealing with a never-ending stream of these lunatics that are clearly enraged that you have bees, and they don't. Some notable enemies to be on the watch for include A-bombs, stink sacks, support mains, drakes, furries, murder rockets, manlets, and with the Mistlands now active, everything you'd expect to see on an average day in Australia. Some creatures are tameable, and upon reaching the plains, you'll be given the opportunity to lure and trap locks. These giant nomads can be ridden and bypass the weight effect that armor would normally penalize you for while sprinting, and while PETA may not look favorably on you, they make for delicious jerky in a pinch. There are currently 6 bosses in total, starting with the deer that's been to every Pretty Lights concert, to the boss in Dark Souls 3 who hides in a cup, with the most recent being the Queen who fucking slays and only lives her best life. Solo play. While much of my time in Valheim has been spent chugging jugs with the squad, I've recently gone back and tried out some solo play with the console enabled and would recommend anyone who hasn't tried this to do the same. Not because you can build faster or loot more quickly, No, my friends, I've come to realize that Valheim was never intended to be an open world builder or survival game at all. The true purpose of Valheim is this. Mother truckin' monster fights. Something I failed to mention earlier is that not all NPCs are friendly or neutral towards each other. There's been beef in these streets long before you arrived, and with the console enabled, I've made it my goal to discover who truly runs them. As an example, here's where I first discovered what I like to call the tactical troll insertion, where you continuously airdrop these beautiful blue bastards onto fields of locks and allow them to perform what could only be described as an ecological cleansing, the likes of which no rainforest could ever hope to recover from. At one point, I accidentally added an extra 0 to the 100 skeletons, spawning in 1000, and while I wouldn't recommend this as it crunched my FPS down to about 2, it did prove their unified strength and ability to castrate anything near them instantly. I hope you've enjoyed this wildly disjointed review of a game I've come to appreciate on a multitude of levels. I give Valheim the highest rating, with a score of ecologically progressive out of environmentally devastating. Thank you all for watching, and remember to keep your bees happy, because if you don't, I've been genetically altering death skeetos in my free time and will not hesitate to sick them on you. If you liked this video, maybe subscribe. Or don't. I'm not a qualified source of mythological Norse legend, and even now, Odin is looking down on me in disgust. Praise be to Yagluth.